And now I can do the correct taunt because this is our Monday Night Raw review, and we open up with the gathering of the greatest wrestling minds this world has ever seen to talk about Cena's victimization at the hands of the Beast, Brock Lesnar.
I wouldn't call it the greatest wrestling minds, but it is definitely three of, I would say, the top 5 wrestlers of all time.
Definitely.
At least 10. I mean, if you want to go back further to like Andre and Dusty and San Martino and that kind of stuff, then yeah, that probably pushes these guys down the list a little bit into the top 10 rather than the top 5. But of the last 30 to 35 years, definitely top 5.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. We are talking about, guys, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and Shawn Michaels. So they all gathered together to talk about the Cena versus Lesnar matchup at SummerSlam. And, you know, the positions they took, I pretty much expected. Personally, if I did have one heat of the night, to be honest, I didn't like that they used the legends this way. I would have preferred, I guess the word is more intimate encounters, like maybe Shawn Michaels having a face-to-face with Cena, because they've had some clinics themselves when Shawn was still an active competitor, and maybe Shawn, you know, speaking some truth to Cena, maybe Rick the same way, and then maybe Hulk tries to raise his spirits, but he's still, I guess, somewhat grounded in, you know, being realistic. But just gathering them all together to give their opinions, it was like something that should have been for the pre-show, but they wanted to make it an actual Raw segment for me.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly think this is, and I didn't even think about it when we were doing this segment, so I apologize for doing this out of order, but I think this is a heat of the night for me. This segment was so pointless, and like you said, it basically felt like they said, this is a pre-show segment, oh, let's just put it on the opener for the real show. And it's lazy, and like I said, it was pointless and obnoxious, and there is literally nothing about this segment that helped anyone.
One of my favorite segments that Cena has done, and to be honest, there are quite a handful. When I'm talking about encounters he's had with other people, was when Edge came out as a surprise to talk some sense at him before his bout against Brock Lesnar at Extreme Rules. I was looking for something similar here.
Can I just point something out, though, John?
Absolutely.
Was that really your favorite segment, one of your favorite segments, because it was a John Cena segment, or just because Edge is that damn good?
It was Edge.
Yeah.
Light a fire under it, but I like seeing that side. See, that's the thing. I could get behind Cena a lot more, and I guess the people who choose to get in front of it do whatever. And I was kind of talking to you about this tonight. The thing with Cena that I just choose to laugh off now, and it's whatever, is he's not going to be vulnerable. He's not. And if he is, it's a very different definition of vulnerability than what, say, you or I would be used to in say, like a Dean Ambrose, or I was saying earlier, Shawn Michaels when he was a babyface, because, man, did he know how to really show that he had to fight from the ground up in some of his matches. But to me, Cena, even when he takes things seriously, he never really seems to be shaken. And, you know, that Extreme Rules confrontation was probably the closest I've ever seen Cena, like, with the looks on his face and everything else, to just being like, well, am I even capable of being a man like Brock Lesnar if I couldn't overcome The Rock after I said I would, after I said that nobody remembers second place? And I was looking for something similar here, particularly from a guy like Shawn Michaels, because I felt like that would have been the best voice to deliver it. Again, given their history, given Shawn's career. But I felt like these three talents were wasted, and I think you summed it up perfectly and succinctly when you said that this benefited no one.
It really didn't. It didn't even benefit Cena, because it was just this weird, like, Hulk Hogan is John Cena's biggest fan, but Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels don't really buy into it. Like, the WWE is basically saying Hulk Hogan is a huge fan of John Cena, but these other two guys, they use their brains to make their decisions.
And, you know, if they didn't want to do the face-to-face, really personal encounters I was talking about, another way I would have loved to have seen them utilized is kind of do what you did with Lesnar tonight, which we'll get to later because I loved it, and do like that close, like, backstage kind of interview, You know, again, very formal style and things like that, and just have them give their opinions on the match, because these are guys that have interacted with Cena. They all conceded that, and, you know, they could just say, you know, to see him be dominated like that, you know, to see, you know, the guy dominated by someone like Brock Lesnar, and just, you know, really give their opinions and express their innermost feelings on it. But here, they didn't even do that. I think you were right on the money. It was more about, well, I like John Cena. Well, it's cool you like John Cena. We all like John Cena, but he's not going to really have a fight. It didn't get to the core of the matter.
Yeah.
This was the guy, and he got dominated. If this was a Stone Cold or a Rock.
See, but I feel like Shawn
you know,
Michaels did kind of encompass that a little bit, because he came out and he said, you don't come back from a beating like that the same man.
He did, and I wish they would have gone further with that. See, that's why I almost feel like, I mean, certainly Hulk Hogan. Maybe we could have found a place for Ric Flair, but honestly, I feel like both of those guys were really just getting in the way. Again, I would have just preferred Shawn talking to John Cena in some sense, whether, again, it was that secluded interview or face-to-face, because I think he understands it. And that line showed that it could have been the beginning of a really thoughtful kind of promo. And then when Cena does come out, which, for the record, I disagreed with. I don't think he should have come out during that segment. If Cena did want to address it, it should have been its own separate segment where he just talked to the universe and not to anybody else in the ring. You know, because people should be responding to Cena. I don't think the other way around. I don't know. That just didn't sit right with me. And yeah, I feel like once he came out, it just totally went downhill for me. I really just did not care for this segment. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add. It was just obnoxious, and like I said, it was pointless. So if you want to move on, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Up next, we had Rusev versus Jack Swagger. And again, I have to praise Rusev because he spent a good majority of this match selling the crap out of his ankle.
Yeah, I have to praise both guys, because Rusev was selling the ankle and Swagger
was selling the ribs, yeah.
Swagger was selling the ribs and really struggling, like to the point where he almost seemed towards the end, you know, to be at Rusev's mercy. Still no sign of Coulter. And, you know, these guys had a nice little back and forth. Swagger tried to get into it, but ultimately Rusev does overcome. But again, he overcomes in a way that protects the credibility of Swagger, because there comes a point, I think it was either a spin kick to Swagger's face or it was like a Rusev super kick. And then he just starts.
It was a spin kick.
It was a spin kick, that's what I thought. And then he just starts stomping a mud hole in Swagger till the referee just steps in and says, stop, you know, Swagger can't continue. And he rings the bell. And then, of course, Rusev celebrates. And then, as I said, Bo comes out. And again, he tries to humiliate Swagger and tells him, all you have to do is believe. So, yeah.
Why would that be humiliating?
Well, I mean, you know, Bo is always just trying to be a douche. But you and I, we see Bo for the magnificent human being that he is. So.
Okay. Well, Rusev wins via, I guess you would call that a TKO, since the ref had to call the match. Or maybe just call it via ref stoppage.
Yeah, I think TKO would be apropos, but ref stoppage I think also works.
All right, so up next we had a number one contenders match for the United States Championship, Cesaro versus RVD. This was a solid match. Not really a whole lot to say. Sheamus and JBL had an interesting little back and forth on commentary, talking about apparently JBL wears a toupee or something.
I honestly didn't even take note of that, to be honest.
Yeah, it was weird because JBL said something about Sheamus's hat, and then Sheamus said something about JBL being bald, and JBL was like, yeah, this is a toupee, and then Sheamus said something about being able to just throw it right in the washer.
It would have been so hilarious if Sheamus would have been like, JBL, why do you wear a toupee? And then JBL would have shot a look at Michael and been like, why'd you tell him, Michael? That was a secret. But, yeah, rematch from SummerSlam pre-show, and Cesaro does get the win this time. He doesn't fall victim to the RVD spin kick 5-star combo. Gets the win off the neutralizer. So now Cesaro is finally back on an incline, an upward trajectory. He beat Swagger, I believe, the week before. And yeah, got in Sheamus' head a little bit last week on Main Event when Sheamus had a match with Curtis Axel. So their feud is continuing. And you know what? I don't mind. These guys have solid bouts over the U.S. title. They could have the potential to have match of the night at this pay-per-view. So I'm excited for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What happened to Mark Henry?
I don't know. Well, we did see Mark Henry tonight, remember?
Yeah, I know we saw him tonight, but I'm asking what happened to him trying to defend the country against RV or against. I guess that was against Rusev, so I guess I'm a segment late, but still, it's just hitting me now.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
All right, well, this Raw was just weird. So after Cesaro picks up the win over RVD, he kind of rolled out to the floor and grabbed the U.S. title and just kind of taunted Sheamus with it. So definitely pretty generic build up for this feud, but it's still one that I want to see just because I know that the in-ring is going to be so good. Up next, we get Natalya versus Paige 3, and finally, Paige picks up a clean win over Natalya.
Yeah, they had a little bit of a back and forth. Natalya nailed a German suplex at one point. I thought it looked pretty nice. Got the sharpshooter in on Paige, but Paige was able to escape. Paige tried to get her own sharpshooter in on Natalya, but Natalya rolled through. Tried to get another sharpshooter in
No,
on
dude,
Paige.
I don't think Paige is going for a sharpshooter. I think Paige was going for a PTO.
Okay. That you're probably right. But either way, Natalya does escape. She tries to get a second sharpshooter in. Paige escapes. Then she hits the Paige turner. Finally gets the win. AJ comes out, though, and while Paige is distracted with that, Natalya nails a discus lariat that still doesn't even compare to Luke Harper's, and she leaves, I guess because she's in a huff that she couldn't beat the Divas Champion 3 times, even though, to be fair, 2 times should be enough to warrant contendership, even though I don't like Natalya. But then the post-match, yeah, that's when things got a little interesting, so.
Yeah, the post-match was just flat out weird. I kept it, like, it was one of those things where it got so awkward that I felt like I just had to yell over everything to make it feel less awkward. And I just kept on yelling, "You can't out crazy AJ," just constantly, because this was just, I mean, AJ gets in the ring and she says something about how Paige is her little English muffin. And she says that she knows Paige was sincere when she said she loved her, but not as sincere as AJ was being now. And then she dropped the mic and she gave Paige a big, adorable, and I honestly thought this was hilarious and actually kind of cute. AJ gave Paige a big hug, and then and obviously Paige was just like not having it at all. She was just like borderline anxious aardvark at this point. And AJ then offers her hand, and then she grabs Paige's hand and kisses it. And then Paige just kind of gave her that look like WTF, mate. And then AJ skipped a circle around her and then left.
And fan fiction would never be the same again.
Yeah, I mean, one of the top-rated comments in the Reddit thread was, "Now kiss."
Exactly. You know what? I don't even know how to feel about it anymore. Like, am I enjoying it? Yeah, I think they're gonna have another great match at Night of Champions, but I don't even really know what to make of this anymore. To be honest, like, I just think it's another thing that I'm just enjoying mindlessly, pretty much, not even trying to give much thought to it. Because what thought could you even give to it? It's AJ bringing the.
I'll tell you what thought you could give into it: the fact that Paige is a sociopath.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that big Reddit thread, which was really awesome, and AJ now giving it back to her, which I think is very interesting. But, will Paige respond before Night of Champions? I mean, I certainly assume so. I hope she does, and it'll be interesting what that response is. But you have to figure this will be the last bout between these two, at least for the time being, before Paige moves on to another contender. So I'll be interested to see how this all shakes out.
I think the really funny thing is, if you really think about it in this feud, if Paige is a sociopath, I can speak. If Paige is a sociopath, then AJ is a sociopath as well, because the crap she does is just as antisocial as Paige.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I wouldn't offer any arguments to that. I
mean, even if you want to go back to the idea that AJ did the whole secret admirer thing with Caitlyn and Big E.
Right.
That's very, like, sociopathic tendencies right there.
Yeah, she's messed up. Like, there's no doubt about that. And these two on a collision course. But, maybe AJ is really just exposing Paige as a fraud. Like, maybe Paige just thought she could be all cutesy and get in AJ's head and not have any repercussions, but now she's really staring into the true face of psychosis. She doesn't like what's staring back at her, and maybe that's what they're kind of playing up. I don't know. That's why I said I'm going to be very intrigued by Paige's response to all this, which I'm assuming may come as early as this week, either on Main Event or on SmackDown.
I said it about 6 times during the segment, and I'm going to say it again here. You can't out crazy AJ.